Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Such a pleasure to be here with you in Kalakshetra.
My pleasure, totally.
We thought we'll speak to you about a few issues, a few thoughts that you might have and be able to share with us regarding this legacy that is Kalakshetra. Yourself been in the arts all your life, a performer, a teacher, choreographer. How and what would you say is Kalakshetra? What is this legacy?
How do I answer that word legacy? Because it's something so beyond what my mind can comprehend the proportions. Because honestly, when I entered Kalakshetra, it was with a very innocent, with the enthusiasm of somebody completely innocent of what is happening here, with just the fervent need to do something for the art world, and somewhere some instinct was guiding me. It was very spontaneous before I could comprehend, and every day since I entered here, I learn a little more of the immense, the thought, the effort, the life and soul that has been put into this place. And I keep saying it, and I will continue to say that there is no place like Kalakshetra anywhere. This is an artist's dream. This is the dream of everybody who wants to live a life of beauty, of all of us who want to live a life worthwhile, You understand right from the time you enter the space that is Kalakshetra. So when you see the way the kolam has been done with so much love, see, it's like we see kolams everywhere on the road, but why does it take on a special beauty when you see it here? Isn't it? Somewhere that the spirit of it enters each one of us here, and we do things with a keener sense of, a keener eye for beauty. We do things with the knowledge that there is a responsibility towards doing it, isn't it? So it's I think, whether you are born into the legacy, whether you have grown up with it, whether you enter it from the outside like I have done, the legacy is in our hands before we know it, and it's our responsibility to treat it with respect. Whether when I sit in the prayer with the faculty and students, when I see a movement on stage and it hits you that, in that one movement, how many hours of thought have gone into it? Otherwise, that movement would not be there with so much depth. And whoever performs that movement is able to feel that beauty and transmit it to the audience. So something has been created that you only have to touch it, and then it takes, the beauty happens by itself and then passes on to the next one. How we're all blessed to have to even participate in this vision. I feel it's somewhere destiny in my life has played a role. I have been able to experience this. Yeah.
Kalakshetra is known for its unique pedagogy, its style of teaching, communication, its own parampara, as we would like to believe. How would you speak of that to us? What would you say of that parampara?
Frankly, I come from a different, I would say different because I learned from a traditional Natavanar. Different because it was not an institutional learning. And difference because there was only me in class. It was an individual class. So, and my understanding of what the Kalakshetra pedagogy was very different. I saw a technique that was for me, Kalakshetra at that time represented a technique of doing adavals in a particular way, represented a technique of presenting dance productions. And there were certain compositions that were unique to Kalakshetra. Beyond that, I had no understanding. So today, if you ask me, I think, again, as I said, every movement of the arm, the eyes, the head, the feet carried significance. I mean, the significance sometimes revealed itself, sometimes it was brought out, sometimes it just happened, right? The depths that were plumbed, the process itself was most important. I think the getting into the absolute essence of a word, of a lyric, of a melody, of a movement, of a situation, of a character was absolutely essential and crucial. And from there, the movement developed, the movement became fuller, and it came out in its entirety. When I hear the senior generation speak, the kind of inputs they had, it was not just restricted to an Indian traditional way of learning. I think Srimati Rukmini Devi brought in her worldview, and the learning was from anywhere. You know, anything that was of great value was adapted and adopted for. So that, I think, became very special. And what we see today is an amalgam of her experiences, of how this got translated through the understanding and physical and mental capabilities of young students who were fortunate to learn from her, to learn from the great scholars who lived and taught at that time. So, a tradition, a way of learning, a way of teaching, a very sincere and a committed way of approach. So that is the pedagogy. It doesn't matter what your compositions are, right? It doesn't matter that we have so many tattadavas, so many natadavas, or the idea it is the approach. To me, that's what represents a pedagogy, which is what I think I learned from my teachers too. But the absolute truth is you have to get to the sense. There is no compromise. There is no other route to it. Absolute sincerity, absolute commitment has to be maintained and has to be passed on. That is that's what I would like to do. That I feel is my responsibility.
The Kalakshetra technique is what most of us relate to. And we feel it is a technique, but as you say, it is so, technique is perhaps one fragment.
Absolutely.
A more necessary fragment in terms of the everyday living.
It's the tangible fragment.
It's the tangible fragment, but hardly the whole, hardly the whole. Very beautifully you've told us also about the fact that the process is what makes it Kalakshetra.
Right.
And therefore the end product is also, it has a flavor of that process.
Completely.
Beautiful. What you talk of is a very old world charm in that sense, where so much effort, so much, like you say, a very sincere effort goes into the process itself, in the faith that there is beauty at the end of it.
I would actually interrupt you here. I get very distressed when people talk about it as an old world charm. It is how it should be. Whichever century it is, it doesn't matter. That is the world that is relevant. And again, that word relevance, how does Kalakshetra remain relevant? I think it's each of our responsibilities. I think it's our duty to ensure that Kalakshetra retains the best and passes it on. The world should understand that Kalakshetra is a place that has to be preserved.
What do you see as an artist yourself? How do you see yourself bringing to this beautiful process?
As an artist, strangely, I feel if I'm able to facilitate the growth artistically, creatively of the faculty, ensure that the students grow in the best possible way creatively, create an atmosphere of harmony and beauty, and where learning is but a natural process, but the thing that you do like breathing, where even a flower, you don't walk past without looking at that fallen flower. I mean, it's very natural to stop in your tracks and watch that squirrel drink water. I mean, these are the things ultimately that hone your sense of proportion, your sense of beauty, your sense of art. And this is what you learn from. So I feel that if I'm able to instill that in make it possible for the students, make it possible for the faculty to function in a harmonious way where they are able to realize the potential within themselves and without, then I think, and retain the beauty of this environment, whether it's the craft center, whether it's the schools. And I think Kalakshetra should take a leadership role in primary and pre-primary education, art education at the primary and pre-primary level, and also at for senior citizens. I mean, this is something that something that I feel is very important, because I feel children unquestioningly imbibe all that is around them. If you give them a world of beauty, if you give them a world of incessant learning, then that is what they will carry with them throughout their lives. So I think Kalakshetra can do that, and that is and through art. And today we have world has moved by leaps and bounds beyond anybody's imagination. I feel art has, whether it is psychologically, whether it is physically, whether it is emotionally, plays a very strong role in all our lives. As dancers, we know. I feel angry with the world. Then I finish my dance class and I feel the world is the right way up again. Yes. So similarly, when I'm happy, the movements take on a different meaning. So art plays a very strong role in every way. So if that can be used in a very scientific, in a very artistic, to educate the child through art, which is what Kalakshetra was started for. Yeah. And to start at that age where if this is what they receive and this is what they understand, then at 10 and 15, they will never veer past this. I started Abhinaya at a very young age. I realize now what an advantage it was, because everything came naturally, right? At that age, everything you just uninhibited. It's a very moist soil that is here, and it takes on such strength of growth, right? So I feel that is where we need to mold the children through art and education. I think Kalakshetra should play a very important role.
You look at yourself as a facilitator of a certain parampara and a certain aesthetic, it's almost a certain belief in the arts and in the purity of art. It's wonderful to hear that. The question here is that while most art institutions battle with remaining relevant in a changing world, Kalakshetra has done fairly well for itself in that sense. It's held on to its identity, it's held its space despite
many
challenges.
Many
what would you say is that quality that has helped it stay alive?
I think the very reasons that for which they were created, for which Kalakshetra was created, remains relevant today, was very necessary yesterday, is still more necessary today, and will always be necessary tomorrow, because we're talking about climate change, we're talking about environment preserving the environment. Look at Kalakshetra. I mean, here, the children immediately kind of fall in line with a certain practice, and all the traditions that have been are towards that, isn't it?
It almost seems like as if, it was ahead of its times at one point.
Exactly. And it was echoing practices that were there and also imbibing the best of what she had seen everywhere else in the world. But during these performances, during the productions, when I see parents bringing their children, okay, and when I see them, the children wander in and they look with rapt attention at what is happening on stage. Sometimes they're just looking at the musicians and watching one finger. Sometimes they're watching the dance on stage. Then they run and they'll play in the sand for some time. And then they'll wander in. I think that kind of, the childhood, isn't it?
Yes.
Where do you find it?
Yes.
I think parents want that for their children. That is one. And then you see the older generation who are walking in here, and for them, they're at that point in their lives when what they see on stage, it need not be anything that is religious. It need not be anything that is bhakti oriented. I mean, in an apparent way. But the complete spiritual overtones, the depth of feeling transcends a certain human level and takes you to another world. All of them are transported to that world, and it touches a chord and they come out like they have been part of something that was very special, something very moving. So it's not even whether Kalakshetra will remain relevant.
It will always remain relevant.
It will always. In fact, it's so important that Kalakshetra retains what it has and grows from strength to strength, because that is what the world needs. World has always needed it and will always need.
Towards this, would you believe that there is enough dialogue and inquiry amongst all of us as people who belong to this institution in any capacity, as students, staff members? Is it important to revisit that which you call the essence? And
Yeah, I think I have. I didn't grow up with this.
Fantastic.
Okay. So when I came in, and even today, I look around me and I think, everybody here takes it for granted.
Yeah.
Right? So where is the question of dialogue? They don't realize, I mean, it's not a blanket statement, it's not a criticism.
Not at all.
But I feel that the value of it, when you have it, and when you have got it so easily, you've grown up with it, you don't see it for the rarity that it is, isn't it? Yes. Therefore, where do you speak? I mean, you take it for granted, isn't it? I don't feel, I feel that it has to be a very strong responsibility, not in a rigid way, but in a very positive way for everybody who's been through Kalakshetra. I think it's not about keeping your environment clean. It's not about arranging your furniture in a particular way, or wearing your sari in a particular way, or putting a flower in a particular way. It's the thought process. It's the generosity. It's the breadth of vision. It is the understanding that the world, is a place, and what your place in that world is, and whether you are just existing or you want to live a life of great meaning and beauty, isn't it? I don't know how many people who've lived and learned and passed out of Kalakshetra who continue to be here, how much they think about, I don't know.
But you would feel that such a space would be more and more relevant in the years to come.
Completely.
A space for dialogue, a space for conversations, of understanding further the vision of this beautiful woman, Rukmini Devi.
I think it's very necessary. And I hope in this 80th year, we're able. Problem is, we kind of digress and we go into personal,
Yes.
what she was larger than the person that she was, isn't it? She pointed a way, and that way it's not one movement. It is a way of life which she has created.
The word conformity normally is associated with this institution, where there is a feeling that you are this is what you need to do, and in this manner at this time. So there is a very clear direction of how to do something. And very often for younger people, there is always the feeling that this is a little too rigid. And at the same time, you find that in Kalakshetra there is immense artistic movement. But we're not able to understand it as creativity sometimes when you're younger, when you're students, especially as students. Because you're only listening to this needs to be done in this way, whether it is an aramandi or, as you said just now, placing a flower. No, you just do it like that. Don't ask why. What is this space? Because the world is moving towards questioning. Younger people like to have a rationale for things. Are we ready to give them the answers they are seeking? How would you understand this movement from conformity to creativity?
I believe in a very strong groundwork. I believe in a very strong grounding in whatever you're learning. And for that, you need a lot of discipline. And I don't think discipline is the bad word. It's very necessary to be on time for prayer. If you're not on time for in time for prayer, you have to be. You have to explain why. And I think it's, in a way, you have to pay the price for it. Very nice. If you don't follow certain, traditions or that were created here, if you don't follow certain rules, okay, there was a reason behind why it was created. If you don't follow it, definitely, I think it's, you should be. You pay the price, I think discipline is very important. If you're calling it conformity, I think it's groundwork. It's the grounding that you receive, right? But I think it's the way the teacher handles it. When the teacher explains to you the reasons for why it is done, there is a meaning to it. You talk about why it is done, and you talk about the importance of why it is done. And if a child is ready to receive it, okay. If not, the child conforms. Because at some point in the child's life, they will understand. And that would have been ingrained in her or him already. And then the meaning of it comes. You have to give it time. But that doesn't mean you say, okay, till the child understands, she doesn't need to do it. I'll be doing an injustice to that child. Right? I have to ensure that she or he conforms. So it is up to me. I think the best teachers would bring that act out with love. Hopefully, Kalakshetra should continue to have the best teachers. I think that is very important. I very strongly believe in the Guru Sishya Parampara because the complete trust in a teacher is very important. And hopefully the teacher will live up to it, right? And it's when I ask questions, somewhere something should have gone in to trigger that question. The question cannot appear from nowhere. When it appears from nowhere, it's worthless. There is no value to it. So when there is something that has gone in unquestioningly, then questions arise. Then the answers for it help you grow. So I feel that questioning is a very overrated quality that is being encouraged in youngsters. You question, but you question with thought. Right?
There is in Indian thought, one always believes that you should have to be prepared within yourself before you can ask a question.
Yes, it is not out of fear that you don't ask, but it is because you're not yet ready to ask a question. And one of the things I really want, to see in Kalakshetra is that there is no fear. fear of asking a question, but at the same time, the necessity to learn and therefore question should be the practice.
Very nice.
No?
You've also, spoken about the Guru Sishya Parampara, and this process of learning first with discipline,
Yeah.
and just implicit discipline, because the mind is not yet ready to question,
Absolutely.
or even understand what it means to question.
Yes.
And then to grow to a point when you are capable of questioning, not questioning, but you're capable of questions that you want answers
Correct.
for.
Correct.
Of a higher learning process with your teacher. But this is a very beautiful relationship between a teacher and a student. And I think in Kalakshetra we've had that wonderful relationship that has always been possible. But it is also an institution in some ways. So how would you speak of, say, the merits and the demerits of it being both an institution where students don't just pass through one teacher, very often they meet up with different minds, with different interpretations, different abilities. But at the same time, the spirit of learning with a guru is retained.
See, I think that's a huge challenge, both for the student and especially for the teacher, because this is an institution. You represent a pedagogy, but it is not something that you have created, but you have inherited, just like others. And it is your responsibility, along with others, to pass it on. So it is a collective responsibility. And what happens is, where is my place in it? And what kind of ownership do I have with the student is important. It is my responsibility to kindle that student's mind and open. But I also have to have the detachment that the student will pass on to somebody else. But I should still have that same responsibility without that possessiveness. It's a huge challenge for teachers here. And it's also, I think it's each person's journey, each person's growth. And that's also something that's very important, that I create an environment of harmony. When I say I mean in my capacity here to ensure that things are smooth, or things are alive and vibrant, in a positive environment. Because every teacher has to feel valued, has to feel that they are giving something of value to the student. At the same time, they should not look at themselves in comparison to the others. Because when that comparison comes, invariably unnecessary emotions come in the way. And I feel I should be in a position to ensure that those feelings should not happen in this environment.
What you're then speaking of is also perhaps a part of Rukmini Devi's vision, where she spoke of a certain personal evolution in every one of us, whether we are students, teachers, whatever.
Correct.
But as everybody on this campus, that the path of personal evolution is very important.
She's thought of everything.
Do you think then that we have enough in Kalakshetra to challenge us as adults? I wouldn't use the word teacher or student, but as adults, what is the importance of this growth, and do we have enough to take us through the process personally for us?
I think it's very easy to be overwhelmed by all that is there around you, and therefore there is you feel that, what is my place here, right? That kind of negativity can come, or of what use am I, or this environment gives me the space and the food to grow, and therefore I have to ensure that through me something passes on to the next generation. So that is also possible. So what I feel, I genuinely feel that each of us, have something to contribute in our own way. if we're able to look at that value that each one of us has, and if we're able to appreciate that and make that the center of that person's contribution, then I think that sense of self-worth, that sense of connect with the organization will happen naturally.
Where would you like to see Kalakshetra go from where it is today? How would you like to see it move? And what do you see as your role in that journey?
I think Kalakshetra is beautiful as it is. It's a world in itself. What I would like is the world to realize what it is. And through little windows, and sometimes when the door opens and closes, to see the beauty. Because it needs to be preserved, it needs to be nurtured, it also needs to be protected from, it's, as you say, the door can open, but the door should also shut, because it's very important to take that breath and then, But I think Kalakshetra is really, today, it is a leader in art education. This should lead in creating a generation of young people who think and feel. And therefore, this has an impact on society in the sense harmony is important. Embracing an inclusiveness in thought and aiming for excellence, transcending the trivial and transcending where you aim for something that is bigger and higher than our mere physical and mental selves. So I think that Kalakshetra can play a leadership role in creating a society, in impacting society. This is the place, and Kalakshetra has the both the emotional and physical infrastructure to do it. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Entirely my pleasure.
Thank you.